Greetings to all. This is Dr. Pritha Sanyal from India, Bangalore, India, and I am an assistant professor, senior scale, teaching in Presidency University, Bangalore, India, in the Department of Languages. And I'm here to present before you my paper, Appropriating Bollywood Theme-Based Memes in English Language Teaching in India. Uh, yes, I hope my screen is visible. Uh, any conversation on memes has to begin with Dawkins. And as Dawkins very effectively mentioned, that language is a representation of culture, and memes parallelly are like gene like infectious units of culture that spread from person to person. Now, this definition of memes itself makes it very relevant for teaching learning in the classrooms for language teaching as well as cultural studies. So, what this paper is attempting to do is to use Bollywood theme based memes as the images and connecting it with business environment, business context, business communication in an Indian classroom, which comprises of students from MBA, which is a post graduation program on business administration, and how the students respond to this particular activity and how does this help in their business English skills. So basically, my focus on in this particular presentation is going to be on business English, learning business English through Bollywood theme-based memes. And the focus of this research is, as I mentioned, going to be business English in higher education classrooms using Bollywood theme-based memes. So the objectives of the paper, as I right now mentioned, is to identify those areas that can be learned through Bollywood memes in a classroom when it comes to business English. And it is also how to connect the images of the, the Bollywood theme based memes into creating textual content around that particular image, connecting it with business context, content experiences, and etiquette. Um, what this activity tries to project, and of course, in turn, the research tries to convey, is to assess the relevance of the language, expression, and vocabulary that the students use to business English, and to appreciate creative thinking along with synchronization of the visual and the textual content in the memes, which is very essential for any meme based activities, as we know. I mean, there has to be a synchronization of the picture, of the visual, and that of the text. So we are generally assessing the students' proficiency in business English in terms of learning and using it through their responses to the visuals, which are representation of Bollywood movies, actors, situation, post party, whatever it is, anything connected to Bollywood. And how does it enhance their learning in terms of business vocabulary, business phrases, sentences, connecting it with their creative uh, connection or their creative ability to connect the text with that of the image. Now, for the uninitiated, because I know there are people from very many countries out here, a little bit of exposure to what is Bollywood. So, Bollywood is primarily the Hindi language film industry in India, which is based in Mumbai, formerly called Bombay. And it is one of the largest centers in film production in the world and significant part of Indian cinema. In fact, it is the probably most obvious and the most relevant representation of popular culture in India. And because a whole mass of people in India consume Bollywood, and as the very name suggests, that it's coined in lines of Hollywood. However, the approach towards Bollywood cinema, mainstream Bollywood cinema, is quite different from that of Hollywood. It is larger than life. It has dramatic storytelling. It's colorful costumes, music, dance, action, and It has a fine blend of drama, comedy, romance, action, and it appeals to a wide section of audience. And the narrative could be around themes like love, family, social issues, political issues, good versus evil. I mean, multiple things. But the approach is obviously, and I mean, as I did mention, always larger than life. Something that is significantly in a very big campus, in a very big canvas. So that's how Bollywood works. And the reason why this was chosen is because of its instant appeal, recognition, connect with the students, and they immediately understand. And also because they understand, and meme usually has this element of humor in it, it very well connects with the larger than life scenario that Bollywood generally tries to project. So the methodology that I have used is, it is this entire research is based on experiential research. um, it was an activity based assignment where the students were given, it was distributed in the class, a few pictures, images, which I'm going to share with you soon, about different Bollywood themes, Bollywood actors, Bollywood personalities, on screen, off screen, and also photo shoots, multiple things. And this was, as I mentioned, primarily catering to this entire session was catering to the MBA students. And the students had moderate to advanced level of proficiency in English. And the activity was also conducted, I mean, mainly conducted to assess their learning and proficiency of business English. And what is important for one to understand at this point is that this activity was introduced only after there has been a 1 month discussion, conversation, and training in business English. So the students were pretty much acquainted with the kind of skills that one was learning in that particular class. They were aware of business context, business environment, business communication, business ethics, organizational behavior. So these things were already initiated, and they were aware of it for the 1 month before we started with this activity, because it's only fair that the students had a broad understanding of the context that they have to keep in mind when they are using business English. So the focus area in this research, I mean, one is of course language skills and vocabulary, as I mentioned, specifically business language skills and business vocabulary, creative thinking and communication, because since we are talking about memes, which definitely talks about finding an interesting connect between the image and the text, and creating a text that is relevant to business English, but at the same time, there is an element of humor and wit associated with it. And of course, there has to be a synchronization of the visual and textual communication, so that uh, even if the link is, far-fetched, there has to be a convincing point to appreciate the connection between between the visual and the text that the students will be creating. So the visuals are already there. We already give the visuals to the students, but it is the text, the language based content that they will have to create to connect with the visual that was presented to them. So the initiation to the activity. So prior to giving them the activity, a session on memes were conducted in general, and students contributed to the session by talking about what they like about memes, and what kind of memes do they generally consume, and the effect of memes in their lives, and how memes and real work in life in general for them. And it was an effective warm up session because it was important for the students to be aligned to the activity that they would be doing. And at the same time, few examples of Bollywood based memes on business communication, culture, and context were shared to the students. If you see, I have two examples here. So both of these are Bollywood actors. One is, of course, an iconic actor, and the mention of the text, I approve this. Then the boss with a slightly, sly, naughty look on his face saying, that's how I like it. That entire business boss kind of a vibe that one gives. So there were many more that were shared, which I have, I have it in the paper that I've submitted. But yes, as for now, I have two examples to project what was shared with the students prior to the activity that they had to do, independently. The students interacted wonderfully with the examples, and they were so much into it. They were so much enjoying, and at the same time, they were very appreciative of the relevance of the text with business English, and at the same time, the fun element of it. So it was a really a nice beginning, and it gave the students an idea of what they were getting into, and at the same time, ease the situation quite a bit. So these are some of the images that were shared with the students in the class. So these are all Bollywood personalities. I'm not sure how many of you are aware of them. Some of these are post party, and the second one also has our Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, with the film stars, with the top names in Bollywood. And yeah, so these were the images. There were seven images that were shared with the students, and these are few results. I don't think it's very clear, but just wanted to give you certain demonstration, certain samples of the students' responses. And I mean, they all came up with their individual creative responses to the images that were shared. And it was really delightful to see that most of them could connect it with the situation, business English, and yet keep the humor and the wit alive. And we had a post discussion after everyone had done their own bit in terms of text creation for the memes, and it was a hilarious as well as a very lucrative discussion that we had post this. So I'm just going to try to share a few responses. I've been putting it as a cumulative responses here because, I mean, there were many responses, but by and large, if one had to generalize, what would one say? So in image one, I'll take you back to the first image, which is the image of that actor. As you can see, his name is Bobby Deol, who has his headphones and is giving a rather cool pose. So most of the students connected it with, weekend relaxation post heavy duty week, where they've been working a lot, and some of them connected it with performance, post performance relaxation, post task relaxation, and then some of them connected it with project completion. And the responses were very convincing and very relatable in terms of language and context. Both they were language of memes, but at the same time, they were very much connected with the typical phrases and sentences one would use in business English. And most of them had preferred exclamatory sentences, which was very commonly seen. But yeah, there were some who use phrasal sentences also and questions maybe. But in this particular image, mostly, it was more of a reaction based response towards the coolness of that picture that the character projected. So the next response is for the second picture that you see, where you have a group of Bollywood A-listers, and there is also our Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi right at the center. And here we see that the responses mostly, I mean, again, it's a cumulative response, trying to be a little generic towards the whole thing, but mostly related to post work, post team success, pose, and a brush with celebrity during the post success of the a project. The content for his image was, because people had different interpretations to it, and it was more varied than probably the other one. And some of them even had two texts, I mean, like two lines in the text, also like a question answer or a response and a question kind of a thing. And the presence of the prime minister in the image among the Bollywood celebrities added a little layer to this, because it kind of connected business with politics and also the politics in business. So that was also an interesting way the students were, you know, um, engaging with the image. Now, I move to image three, which is, as you can see, these are panels. As you can see, there are four panels over there. The same actress, she's the so-called number one actress of Bollywood today, Deepika Padukone. I don't know how many of you are aware of her, but yeah. So here she is with multiple men, as you can see, and all these men were actually the ones she had a relationship with. And it was very interesting to see the kind of responses that the students had come up with. And I'll just take you to the responses now. So um, it was very interesting what the students had to uh, project out of this, or what they deciphered out of these four panels that had seen. So they spoke of sexism, multitasking in workplace, moonlighting, and post appraisal party. So interesting, very, very interesting thought processes out there, and very, very relatable language, connecting it to business English again when they responded to that. The fourth image is of an Indian actor, Amir Khan, who's again a superstar here. And his this quizzical look on his face generated again various kind of responses, and things like what was the expectation from a performance or from the team members, and speculative reactions. And so there were many interrogative sentences, but equally one could see speculative reactions and some assertive statements also, um, as a reaction to this particular image. Then moving on to the next image, it's Ranveer Singh, who is the current heartthrob in India right now, and it's a picture of him smiling slyly. And this again was very interestingly interpreted by people, by the students. And there were interesting statements connecting to leave approval, rewards including salary hike, new projects, clients, different kind of new clients, new projects, new success, various kinds of things, or dodging your boss for certain matters. So interesting responses there as well. Then moving to the next one is, again we see two panels there. So one is a picture of Bollywood veteran villain, the late Mr. Amrish Puri, and the other one is Paresh Rawal, again a very renowned actor as well as a comedian. And he has, I mean, this particular image again, since it had two components, many people, some of them took it individually, and some of them saw it as uh, a conversation or a statement and a response kind of a thing. So that included things like deadline threat, overtime work order, getting fired from work, or night shift. So both the pictures had different expressions on their faces, and accordingly, the responses had been curated by the students. And the last one, the last picture there is, of course, the king of Bollywood, who we call, who is Mr. Shah Rukh Khan. I'm just hoping some of you know about him. So yes, so the response again was like freedom during notice period, being the boss, excellent appraisal, great confidence, and so forth. So these were the thought processes one could figure out when it came to the different images that were given to the students and their mimetic responses, so to speak, in their textual content. So moving to the observations, so one thing was very evident in the responses, that the students really understood and followed the instructions very effectively. And it was a phenomenally successful activity that was conducted in the class. And the students were quite successful in connecting the images with Bollywood context to situations and experiences. They could instantly bring in a business connection in the images that they could see. um, it was very interesting to the types of sentences that the students used and learned through this particular activity, like interrogative sentences, assertive, exclamatory, directive, and some preferred only phrases, because yes, meme also has that phrase culture. So we could discuss different kinds of sentences also post this particular task, and that was very interesting because that itself became, more like revisiting the types of sentences that they had learned during their early years in school days. Another very successful outcome of this particular activity was the business vocabulary usage, because Words like salary, hike, fired, promotion, increment, appraisal, deadline, you name it. I mean, there was such prolific use of business lingo, so to speak, that I think that itself became an independent conversation. So that was very, very clearly visible. And creative thinking also was very, very much evident, because without creative thinking one cannot consider being a part of memes, and that was very effective. And I must say I was a little apprehensive initially that whether they would catch the you know the fun as well as the trick part of memes, but they did that phenomenally, and very creative, I have to say. So, keeping the business context alive, the text, content, and humor and wit, everything was evident in their textual content. And the tonality of the textual content, which is very significant, had a fine blend of business English and meme language. And these were very, very effective responses, I would say, during the activity of special, even after post discussion, a post activity discussion, that is it. So the task helped the learners to use appropriate language based on business context. So the aim was to focus on business English learning and assessing the proficiency in business English, which was very effectively done. It enabled them to understand the use of big business English, and the juxtaposition of visual and text challenged them to creative thinking, which was very important, because the idea was to definitely use and reflect upon business English, but also to enhance their creative thinking, which is very important, especially when you're looking at business communication, because business communication is about creativity, tact, strategy. So that was very effectively visible. The students showed ability to synchronize images with text, connecting it to business English, which is what I've been, trying to explain since then. That yes, the ability, which was the main focus of this particular research and the activity, was to synchronize the images with the text and connecting the entire thing with a business context, environment, situation, and using language which has affinity to business English. The task also gave the learners opportunity to explore different types of sentence based on their responses. As I mentioned just a few minutes back, that you could see the different types of sentences which became an independent conversation. Some of them were not even aware the kind of sentences that we're using, but we spoke about it, we tried to discuss it, and then it was almost like revisiting the whole thing. And business vocabulary, as I mentioned, that this was phenomenally successful when it came to learning and using business vocabulary. And the entire task, of course, was done keeping in mind the humor aspect of the content, and hence garnered very positive responses from the students, because generally what happens when you start uh, teaching or discussing business language, business vocabulary, it tends to become a bit dry. But this was very effective, and the students were actually very actively involved with this entire activity, and there was a lot of learning and a lot of takeaways. So the task was most successful in facilitating business communication skills in English through Bollywood theme based memes. And the target learners, as I had mentioned, were MBA students who had medium to advanced level of English proficiency. However, their acquaintance with business English was rather new. And the learners connected their English language skills with business context, situations, and experiences. And the Bollywood theme, as I mentioned, because of its popularity, because of its immediacy, because of its relatability, and the way the students could connect, it immediately brought in an ease in the class, and we could see that how effectively that entire activity was received. And I think primarily the research, and I mean what we had seen through experiential situation, that it was definitely the Bollywood theme based meme that encouraged students to so spontaneously become a part of it and not think about the activity as some sort of assignment. So business English was facilitated through this task incidentally but effectively, keeping the learning relevant, useful, and interesting. Thank you so much for patiently hearing me out, and I am waiting for some responses, feedback, and any question answers that you would wish me to address. I am most willing to do so. Thank you so much once again.